the very first unit, it deals with the features and the sources of Indian political thought here. So firstly, the scope here, it is been where it comprises, it has a lot of studies done by, and the political ideas that is been expressed by many of the political philosophers here, from the, say, the east, from the west here, from the periods that we see from the Plato to the Nehru here. Okay, so the development of Indian political thought, how did it take place? So we can see the main development of Indian political thought that has been taken place from the ideas that we see in the Rig Veda, the Samahita here, and also from the early literary monuments of Indo-Aryans here. Okay, so where that that shows us the picture that was there in that prevailing tribal society in that in those times, and the records of that particular government that was uh, what's it that was how the government of tribal unit was prevailing in those days, mainly in the tribal. So we see the monarch here. Okay, so in the tribal assemblies, we also had the sabhas and samitis where they had a check upon the how the authority of the king is going on. So you also see the hymns. Okay, the hymns of Rigveda, it refers to the four classes. Our Hindu society is divided into four varna classes. Okay, so uh, this is where the Rigveda shows us the attributes of the king's divinity here. Okay, so it was derived in the divinity of the king. It was derived in the two versions here. So, firstly, it where it has a the king is the ruler. Okay, he is the member of the ruling class here, and also the participator here for all those ceremonies. Okay, and you see there are many, but the Vedic Samhitas or the Brahmanas here, see, they never accept the divine concept of the king that is based upon the hierarchy. Hierarchy means the levels here. Okay, so also you see the Brahmanas, they have considered a lot of problem of monarchy, and they have also given the attributes to the divinity of being the sovereign, the supreme, and they are described that how the Indra, the god Indra, and he has become the king of gods here. So because of the divinity, that divinity is been passed on to the transferred to the human king here, from up to the down here. So that human king you can see in the Mahabharata and also in the Manu Samhita. So there are many of the Vedic literatures that talks about the social contract theory. Social contract theory tells us about that state or the king is a contract that is done between the people, between the will of the people, how did they thought, and they surrendered their rights and duties so that they could protect the king here, is what it is called a social contract. And where you see that there were the conditions of anarchy. Anarchy means the state was not in a good manner here, that was prevailing in the society. That situations has led to the invention or the advent of the monarchy. Monarchy means the king here. Okay. So the Vedic Samhitas, Brahmanas, these refer to the origins of four classes here. And you also see the germ. The germ has been contained in this hymns in the last book of Rig Veda here. Okay. And where you see the Purusa. Purusa is a kind of a creature or a kind of a giant who has got this 1,000 heads. That Purusa has got a 1,000 heads here and 1,000 eyes and 1,000 legs here. So he was born in the beginning. Okay, he was born in the beginning because of the gods. They did some sacrifices. They performed some rituals and sacrifices, and from that sacrifices, his mouth has become the Brahmana, and his arms has become the Rajana, the Shastriya, his thighs has become the Vaishya, and the feet has become the Shudra here. Okay, so from the mind, okay, from the mind, it was the moon here. Okay, there comes the moon here, and from the eyes, if it is the sun here, and from the mouth, the Indra and the Agni. From his breath, there is a god of wind here. The from the Purusa. Okay, from his navel, it came the air here. Okay, and from his head is the sky here, the Purusa. It is where you can see the whole universe is within that Purusa here. Okay, and from his feet, that is the earth you can see here. Okay, and from his ear, you see the four quarters. Okay, so another important thing, you see, the Vedic literature, it has the law which is called the dharma, okay, which is similar to the truth here. So when a man declares that he is true, uh, when a man he declares, so there is a him here. There is a him means a saying here. So when he declares that there is a when he says something that is true, that becomes that he is declaring the law here, and that law which he declares, it becomes what it is true. That law is true. Okay, that law, it is been derived from where? From the will of the creator here. Okay, so the main features of the ancient Indian polity here, Indian political thought, we can see, yes, the first is, it is the human political, sorry, the Indian political thought is the has its continuity. It is going on, going on, going on. So many of the scholars and the political thinkers, they gave a treatise on relating writings to the whatever the early writers that were there, depending on that. So you can also see all the writings and all the theories, ancient theories, on the other hand, they are carefully maintained. What the predecessors, the second one, the predecessors are nothing but who already been existed before. So they have said that political thought has got that need necessary of different opinions, and it adds the total and the main subject continuity here. Okay, and secondly, it has been developed mainly in the northern India and the Deccan here, which is the home of Indo-Aryan culture. Okay, so the Dravidians of South, where in the later part of the history, you see they have created a lot of, they have built up a very powerful states here, and they have given a lot of contribution to the Indian political thought here. Okay, so, thirdly, it is linked with the religion. Ethics means something that is correct, and wrong ethics is nothing but the naitikata, and the development on the moral basis of the people, how they are. That is that a people has to bound up as their, it is their duty. Okay, duties of the rules here. So no doubt the king and the priest here, they were kept different positions, but they occupied a great place within their position here. They have got a great prominence here. Okay, so the king and the priest here, then they had no, they never have been cooperation there. And you see, the fourthly, it is where there, despite of those moral and the religious things, Indian political thought is very unrealistic in its nature. Okay, in its nature, and here you can see the ideas of the Hindus that has been laid on the down to the earth were very much down to the earth here. Okay, and that is been where it has been tended into um, the idle politics there. Okay, so whatever the rules of policy that has been founded based upon the wisdom is nothing but the truth upon the past people, the past masters. So, and which the rulers has to be expected, and they were expected to observe that. So this is where it is been laid down here. Another Another characteristic of political ideas you can see is much more influenced by the monarchical states. Monarchical states is where you see a single ruler here, which was mainly seen in the northern part of India here. Okay. And in the sixth way, they wanted this Indian politics was very much linked with the um, what's linked with the other subjects that were treated and treated as something isolated, something out of the, or they were not included in that subject, but they wanted to link that other subjects which were not included here, and they wanted to maintain that um, linkage between the branches of the other human activities here as such. Another feature of ancient political thought is the how this political thought and the institutions where the priestly and the ruling class occupies a very dominant position. Okay, it occupies a very dominant position here, okay, in the society. So you see it has got all those secret penalties, and it has given a lot of number of immunities here. Okay, so many of them has been exempted of giving the punishments, such as the brahmanas. You see, they were not given any much of the capital punishments. Okay, in the ancient Indian political thought here, in the ancient Indian political history, if you see. So, however, this priestly class, they were deprived because they thought that they were not given important status in the important status later. And in the other Shastra of Kautilya also, you see the status of the priestly class was been excluded, removed from the components or the factors of the angas of the government, which is called as the Rajyam here. So the sources, and you see the sources are nothing but from where are you gaining that Indian political thought here, from where you can understand, how you can understand the things of political thought here. So there was a very systematic literature that is been only availed from the 5th century BC. It was only from the 8th century BC. There was a semi-secular, okay, half secular and a semi-religious subjects like grammar, etymology, and the astronomy. Okay, astronomy related to universe, that has been developed as something new, independent treatise here. And during the period of the Vedas, the Brahmanas, they were scattered. Everything's were scattered. Scattered means it's been here, it's been there, it's been somewhere else. So scattered passages on the theory you can see, and also the practice of the government here. So the literature which is available in the Rig Veda and the Atharva Veda, that is very much limited here. Okay. So, but there is again a reference, a thing you can know about the kingship here. Okay, and everything you can see in the many of the texts of samhitas of Yajurveda, and also of the Brahmanas here, where they provide us a very valuable information on the position of the king, what are the qualities of a king, how the king should be, okay, and what are the various taxes that has to be collected from the people, and how it could be encouraged, and how what is the prestige that is being enjoyed by the king here, we can be known here. And also we get a lot of information from the position and the privileges that are there with the different castes, especially the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas here. Okay, so you see, India before the 7th century, before the 7th century BC, it was having a small part of kingdoms here. So they have administered the kings who are ruling in that small parts here, there. They have seen their subjects, the people, and they have fulfilled their, what say, the problems or obligations with the help of, with the assistance of the saints. In those days, we used to have the saints here, all the elder men, all the advisors here. So the discussions, whatever the discussions that they took, they there we can see we had in the form of books. But in spite of limited data that is there on the ancient political thought, there are other few important sources in the Vedas. Vedas are something that you see that has been originated directly from the God. There are four Vedas we know. What are those four Vedas? Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, and the Atharvana Veda, where that are the main sources of all thing on the social, political, economic, religion institutions. Everything is been covered in those four Vedas, which is the directly originating. It is believed that it is directly originated, it is directly came from the God here. Okay. So this also, again in the Vedas, you see there is a reference of the kingship here, and also they have mentioned the nature. What is the characteristics? What is the behavior of the sabhas and samitis you see, and the composition, how much the sabha should be, how much the members are should be there in the sabhas and the samitis. Next source is the Ramayana. We know what is Ramayana, which is the oldest and the most popular epic in the Hindus here. So it consists of 7 books, whereas it has 2400 couples here. So where it shows about how there was an Aryan expansion, okay, how they were expanded here again over the Deccan. They were in the northern part. Slowly, slowly, they have expanded. They have become big over the Deccan and the South India parts here. So it talks about the methods that is been um, taken up by those Aryans and the study of Aryanization of the country. Okay. So the Mahabharata next is our one more source here. You can see in the Mahabharata, which is the most Indian political standard one here, which consists of 18 books and 1 lakh of couples here. And in the Shanti Parva of the Mahabharata, which talks about the various functions of the kings, the Rajniti, the administration system, which is been preached up by whom? The Bhishma to the Pandavas. Pandavas, and after his Astranyasas, Astranyasas and the fall in the after Bhishma was defeated in the war, he teaches all those things. And Mahabharata, known as Panchama Veda, Niti Shastra, Vedanta, and the Dharma Shastra here, where you see the ancient Indian political thought information can be we can where we get a lot of information on how the state has been machined, or the machinery of the state. You can see the diplomacy, the war, strategy, international relations, everything has been given in the Mahabharata here. The next source is the Manusmriti. It is one of the most significant source of ancient Indian political thought, you see, which has been described by Manu, Dharma Shastra, and Manusmriti was somewhere composed in between 2nd century BC and the somewhere century AD here. Okay, so where you get a lot of information about how the life of then Indians were prevailing, the age of Puranas. Okay, we talk about the Puranas, something that has been prevailed in that time. Okay, and next you see in the Arthashastra. The Arthashastra talks about how um, how everything has been very much clearly detailed about the administration of the government and the state, and also uh, as Altaker, he says that this Arthashastra is a manual. It's more than a manual thing than a theoretical. Theoretical is something based upon the theory. It's something a more manual thing here you can see. That is where it has its machinery. Machinery is nothing but how it was working, machinery and functions that are being done both in the time of peace and at the time of war here. So that Arthashastra contained a lot of valuations about the administrative system, the diplomacy, warfare, the courses, and consequences. Consequences is nothing but the results of the revolutions, and the again when there was a war and or when there was a defeat, what were the remedial measures that we can state here. So it is a ocean of knowledge. Arthashastra is an ocean of knowledge here. The Smritis you see, they provide a lot of information on the very rich information on the state and the government, um, these are very much categorized. Okay, in this category, this in this thing it falls, in this thing it falls, is nothing but the categorized. So that states about the king was a servant. He is treated as a servant to the whom, to the people here. And a, and a bad or a cruel or a despotic king, he would he would be given with the death punishment. He is been doing such. So they have shown that king must be a person who is posing a lot of noble qualities and very much liberal, the freedom of ideas here. So these were composed between 2nd century BC and the 2nd century AD, you see, where it has been mentioned about the Varna Dharma, Ashrama Dharma, Prayashchita. Varna Dharma is nothing but the four orders in the society. Ashrama dharma, that is related to your stages of life here. The next source is the Sukraniti. It is one of the important sources of Indian political thought because it provides you a very detailed and a very comprehensive is nothing but very descriptive picture of the administrative machinery. It works other than the um, uh, after the Cautilian period, you can see, where it talks about the monarchical regimes. Monarchical regimes is nothing but the period of kings, the single ruler, and it deals up with the foreign policy and the methods of warfare. And besides this, it talks about the duties, functions of the kings, ministers, and officers here. And it has also got references about the administration, you can see. And there is and it has also given an envisaging about the organization, its welfare budget to the subjects, and it also favors to the suppressing, taking out of the crime and the disorder and the control of the drinking here, you can see in the Sukraniti. It also talks about how the state has to uh, contain or make the functions with the maintenance of the hospitals, the rest houses, okay, encouraging and learning things, the scholarship, the trade things, the developing the mines, forests, everything, the industries, and also the irrigation projects is been seen in the Sukraniti. Next is the Manasullasa. This is been written by or composed by King Someswara, who born in 1125 AD and died around 1138 AD. He was a king of Chalukya dynasty. It has contained of 100 chapters, as many of 60 chapters have been dealing of the past time. Okay, so the 40 chapters talks about how a kingdom can be acquired and how it could be stabilized. Stabilized means how it can be maintained. Okay, so it talks about the ethical, okay, ethical qualities to be get to and to be followed by the king here. And it also about talks about this speaking the truth, observing the um uh, what's it, observing sexual morality, offering of Shraddha here. Shraddha is nothing but the meditation and how with the dedication how you are doing, and how you have to go on the pilgrimages. Okay, pilgrimages is nothing but the yatras that you do towards the a few holy places. Okay, so the work it also talks about the many topics relating to the health of the king, the duties of the treasurer, the habitation, very much of varieties of elephants, wards, training, their medical treatment, and also it gives us a lot of information and the qualities about the um, diamonds, pearls can be seen here. Next is the inscriptions. Inscriptions is nothing but on the wall or on the some coin or on the iron brass or on the stones. You see something is written that is called as the inscription. That is where they have published in that inscriptions you see the heroic acts of the kings here, the how they have conquered and how there were a subjugation of other territories and how the boundaries, it talks about whole of the kingdom, it's everything, the events that is been written on the that iron brass or on the walls, everything you can see. The silver plates, tamapatra grandalu it is called as. So they reveal about the affairs of the government and how it talks about the certain facts and a certain aspects about some things that is been neglected here, and they actually provide us a very clear information about the interstate relations within the inscriptions only. They have written that everything, and there only you will get to know that interstate relations and how the relations between the suzerain and his feudatories are there. So it also talks about how are the aims of the government, their duties, kings and responsibilities, everything is been seen here. And the coins, every kingdom has their own coins, and every period of king they had their own coins related to their own wish. If there is a king of one time, he will have his photo or some kind of um, what's some kind of emblem on that. So there was rulers like Chandragupta Maurya, Bimbisara, Ashoka, Samudragupta. Everyone have ordered their court to have a mint coins, so that in that coins they will talk about how they were, about their successful events, their tours and travels, their arts and culture. Here you see everything, and that coins talks about the several city states here, and in that particular state, okay, this state has this type of coin, this state has this type of coin, you can say. So they were, for example, you can see there was a constitution of Sibis, Malvas, Arjunias, Kunidas, Yudhyas, Lichivais. They have confirmed coins here. So you can trace back to the Vedic times also, and how they used gold coins in the Gupta period, you can see here. And also in the Artha Shastra, it refers about the gold coins called as Nishka and Suvarna, the silver coins here, and so silver coins, which is Kushanas. Okay. So the Sungas and Satavana had their coins, name of the kings on the coins. Okay. And you see in the Gupta period, their coin shows about their artistic excellency. So likewise, we see how they have shown us the um, sources of the there were many sources from where we get to know about the ancient Indian political thought here. Okay. So the limitations here, you can see how it the Hindu writers, they wanted to connect their works with the schools and the systems, and with instead they have making them as an expression, they made it as their own. The limitations you can see. So next limitation is where it is been giving a indefiniteness of the chronology. Okay, you cannot know from which there is nothing definite. It is very much going on from which part or from which period it comes. So there is nothing much definite or said properly. Okay, and there is a lack of unanimity because there are mm, for one term there are many meanings, and there are many roles of political institutions. So that is what there is a lack of unanimity. And in most of the cases, you see there are common terms like dharma, dharmaniti, rajaniti, dandaniti, sabhasamiti. They have got up with the different meanings and their roles by various philosophers according to their how it is making difficult for a person to understand them properly here. Okay. So next topic is the Manu. So Manu, he is a very historical character, and where he is regarded as a lawgiver. Manu is regarded as a lawgiver, where his Manusmriti is one of the authoritative and the influential ancient Indian treatise based upon the Indian religious laws, social responsibility, and which is where you see, and it is a part of very much literature known as Dharma Shastra here. Okay, so this Manusmriti is a very different from the previous schools of thought here, which has got their own prescriptions, their own observations. So that entire text of Manusmriti is of the shlokas of 22,685 verses, you can see here. So it talks about the whole thing, total of the human life, from their social duties, from their social problems and the obligations and the duties to their various varnas. Varnas, the caste, the brahmanas, the vaishyas, the shudras, the kshatriyas here. Okay, every varna have their own duty here. Okay, So how they are very much how the different stages of Hindu philosophy you can see. So there is no such proper evidence, and there is no such what you call as what's say proper evidence about how the scholars think about the time period of Manu here. So Manu has been lived somewhere, and his works has been produced somewhere beginning the before the Christian era. You can see. So where George Buller he says about it has been existed somewhere even in the 200 AD and might be composed during the 200 BC is what they have thought here. Okay. So the Manu's social thought you see here, where he Manusmriti, it has divided into four varnas: the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras. So it is the division of four varnas where it brings up the balanced development of society, and where Manu has given religion or the duty the highest place in the society. Okay. So in his social organization, there are four orders, which is called as Chaturvarna, and according to the Purusha Sukta in the Mandala 10 of the Rig Veda here, these four orders, they are very divinely created. Created by whom? The Prajapati here. So this is very much closely associated with the concept of Dharma, you can see. And that Dharma is a universal law here. And where it is based upon some kind of logic that is been benefiting to the early civilization. Okay. So, in the Manusmriti, he talks about the fourfold classification of social organization, which is derived from the Vedic hymn, the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and the Shudras, where they have come up from the where Brahmanas from the head, Vaishyas from the arms, Kshatriyas from the arms, Vaishyas from the thighs, and Shudras from the feet here. So, he the Brahmana is treated as an incarnation, a rebirth of law here. So the purity of this originality exists only given to him because everything in the world is in his origin only. So the Kshatriya should offer the sacrifices and offers the gifts, and he has to protect the people here. So Vaishyas are given with this special kind of learnings for say they have to do the business and the industries here. So the peasants, the herdsmen, the artisans, and also the Shudras, they have to work and serve these three varnas here. So you see the varna system is based upon the superiority of the Brahmins here. Okay. So where because of their knowledge only, and the Kshatriyas are given the next because of their valor here, how courageous they are, and due to their and Vaishyas are given this position because of their wealth here and their gain and the other goods how they are producing, how they are doing the trade and commerce here. So he declares for the Shudras they are born slaves. Slaves is nothing but the servants here. Manu. So he is pointing out that this Vaishyas and Shudras they have to perform whatever the jobs that is been given to them. They have to perform those things. So these three varnas are called as Dvijas. Dvijas means twice born here. Okay, so where Manu also tells about the laws of dharma and the karma here. So, in his opinion, he says this one has to follow social order can only be maintained how only when everybody is doing their own respective duties. So, Brahmana is to do his duty, the Kshatriya has to do his own duty, the Vaishya has to perform the trade and commerce, the Shudras has to do his duty. Only then it can be maintained a social order very harmoniously. So, when who is doing his duties in a very right way, he attains what he attains the heavenly state here, and all his desires whatever he wanted to have it will be fulfilled in the course of time in his lifetime. Whatever he wants to have, whatever he wanted to have, when he is doing his duty, that prescribed duty he is doing correctly, then his things are been given fulfilled in his lifetime, is what he said. So karma, as he believes, it is with the man's birth that is decided. It is the man's birth that is deciding, and according to his what he has done in the past life here. Okay, that is karma. Okay, in past life, what have you done? It is what making you human in the present life, is what he believed here. So you see, it was the model of social organization was based upon the sound logic, and whoever has missed this logic to follow this model, and it has those who missed this logic, they choose to follow the model very blindly, and it has been reduced their teachings here. So that is what, that is a result of what, the social stagnation. So he has, that is what, that is why this oppressed sections that are there in the present society, uh, where the society ridicules the followers, where they say that whatever they say, um, the followers of Manu, they are been the irrational Puritans here. So because they have been devoid of giving the humanity here. So the political thought, you see, political thought in the what's say statecraft, or the Raj Dharma, mainly natural state, it is based upon the principle of what, might is right. Okay, might is right. So Manusmriti, it deals about the lot of Raj Dharma, or the states, about how the state has to be there. So he has supported the divine right theory of the state, which has been considered or created by the God. Okay, it was the god who was created, and that monarch was created by the god. So, in order to save the universe from all this, because in that period of time, it was believed that the state in that prevailing era, it was going in a lot of chaos that was very bad, and the state was in a case of anarchy here. And to relieve them, they have created the god here. So when god saw the people, the world here, there was a state of anarchy. People were running out in very different directions, and out of fear also they had. So he created the king. Okay, so the main is to, he gives a money of the certain virtues to the king that he should have, and he should be very polite, and he should be very determined here. And that king, by the Manu, is the ideal man. He should be well educated, efficient, and he is the person of high morals here. So he should not be in desire. He should not be a slave of sexual desires and the instincts. Instincts is something that you get an ideas within yourself, instincts, and from the anger. And he should not be a slave of the anger. He should free away. He should not have anger, and also the greed here. Okay, so a king should only dharma is something which upholds and which maintains everything, the individual, society, and all the cosmic order. Cosmic order means the worldly order, the universal related order here. So the concept of dharma has been derived from the Vedas, which means it is the God's product of this body of law. Since law is the king, law is the king of the kings. See, law is the king of the king, and that is very much powerful and very much enduring here. So, main thing of the king is what, he has to protect the subjects here, and the king was given the 1/6 of the wealth to his subjects, to his people, because he was giving a very solid protection to them in their property, in their personal life as well. So even the king is the wielder of danda. He maintains the danda, which means a rod or an instrument here, which is a state power here, you can see. So danda is ensures that it talks about the person's property and stability can be ensured here. And the real king, it also prevents the caste from the intermixture. Okay, one caste has to be in one caste has to be one, it should not go and mix. So that is called as intermixture. That danda, according to Manu, he says that it prevents the caste from the intermixture and also from the corruption here. Okay, so where he also prescribes a very special relationship between the king and the brahmanas here. So the administrative system, where he talks about Manu considers four political um, expediencies of conciliation, bribery, discussion, and force. These are very important. Okay, so these four things he should be away from that, and he has to be said that the force is nothing but the danda. It should be used in the very last resort when things are not going in the hand. And the last only he has to utilize the force here. The Council of Ministers, he prescribed 7 to 8 ministers, and he has given accordingly government functions and the division of power and distribution according to their efficiency and the merit here. So the minister has to be very much learned. He should be brave, he should be efficient, and he should be a man of birth here. Okay. So firstly, he belonged from the two categories. The first is from the hereditary tree. Okay, he may see he is from this family, and after his brother might be taking or his son might be taking, that is called as the hereditary. And other, it is from the other categories from based upon his intelligence and his efficiency, how much he is able to consider himself as a minister here. So king has to consult every minister on the matters of war, finance, the endowments, general administration, everything here. So they have to take the king has to take the opinion of the adhikarins. Adhikarins are nothing but the what say the ministers here. Okay. So then there is a local government. You can see there is a primary local government in every village man, and in that village there is a headman. Now we call it as a sarpanch. So where there is a local government was formed by group of 10, 20, or thousands of or hundreds of the villages. So there are different officials in charge of the single or the larger units. You can see they check how their work is going on, and it has been Manu also said that the army has to be placed in between two or three or somewhere hundred, so that they could be the protection of for the kingdom within the villages also, because we don't know from where the enemy comes and how the territory goes and what is going on within the villages here. So that army will be controlling the subjects and also the boundaries of the kingdom. You can see the next is the legal justice system, said by according to the Manu. So where he identifies four laws that has been prevailed in his time, Shrutis, the four Vedas, which are very eternal, okay, which is very universal. That is the law of the universe here. There is Smritis or the Dharma Shastras. These are made by whom? These are the man-made here. Then there is a custom and the social experience of the community. Next is the dictate of the conscience, where he says that it is the law warrants on the Manu teachings, and it should not be reduced the dogma here. So you see, there are a lot of laws that has been heavily drawn from the Manusmriti. There is the Hindu law published in the 1830s. There are many of the other books you see based upon the studies of Manusmriti. There are regarded here, and he is the king is this giver of the justice, and where the king presides over the courts, and he is been assisted by the brahmanas and the experienced counselors. In absence of the king, there should be a brahmana. He should act by a he should act as a judge in his absence, and he should take assistance by the three counselors. Okay, three counselors. In the absence of the king, brahmana becomes the judge here. So shudra was never given the place of judgment here. Okay. And the next, you see the and the what's it the justice, the capital punishments regarding to the brahmanas, women, or children. He talks about the capital punishments to those who murder those brahmanas, women, and the children here. And if they are doing the small pickpocketing kind of robbery, they should be cut off their fingers or something more than that should be given. And there is a if there is a thing of adultery, if there is a mixture of other castes, which is a sin, which is a wrong thing, it is been said according to Manu here. So he prescribes very strong punishments to the to those who indulge themselves in the activities of rape and assaults on the women here. Okay, so the punishments can lead up to the death, or it can be the amputation of the leg or the arms here. Amputation is nothing but the cutting off of the hands or the legs here. And in these cases, Brahmanas were exempted from given the capital punishments. Okay, the main punishments. So they might be abolished from the state. They have to be banished from the state. Ante bahishkarana from their state here. Okay. So there says that no greater crime is known on earth than slaying a Brahmana here. Okay. So the interstate relations, he adopted a six types of foreign policy. You can see a king has to make peace when he is sure about his gain. When he thinks that he can gain, so he has to maintain the peace and the superiority in the future. He should show himself as very much superior in the future and also inferior in the present time. Next is the he shall wage a war when he thinks that he is very strong and he can defeat that army only until and unless he should not go for a war if he thinks he is not strong. Otherwise, he should go for a war if he is so much strong. Thirdly, he talks about how he has to march against the enemy when his army is very much disposed, very much content of lot of weapons, and how it is towards him, and how he has to comparatively he must be very much superior here, and he has to be very much neutral when his chariots are weak and troops are very much weak. He should be neutral. So he has to divide forces when he finds that he has to divide his army when he finds that his enemy is very much stronger in every respect, and he should take refuge with the powerful king only, because he only can protect this king here. Okay, and he should be easily assailable by the enemy forces. Okay, so he talks about the three objectives of treaties, which means the ally. Ally means the friendship or the mitra, money or banya. Okay, so the land or the bhumi. So these are the three things you have to take up a treatise or the agreement at the time of foreign policy and at the time of a war, or something called as a interstate relations. If you want to make an ally friendship with another state, it's a kind of foreign policy. Or if you want to do many exchange, or if you want to take a land, this is kind of three treatises or agreements here. So the economic thought you see here. So Manu has given a different natural resources in the state here. He has suggested king should not be imposed many taxes. So the finance is of very much importance in that period of era, and Manu has given that no government could work without the finance. True. So that's what he has been listed the seven kinds of taxes that can be taken, which are the land revenues, the fees, the fines, taxes for the use of water in river, and fees and fines we know. Land revenue we know. If you are using the land, you have to pay the tax. The fees, if you are using something, you have to pay the cost of that. Fines, if you are not paying on time the amount that has to be required, then you should be imposed on the fine here. Nextly, it is about the use of rivers, water in the river, and the flying of the boats. How you utilize the, if there is a river in one village to another village, how they have to uh, get that usage of water. And the taxes on animals is nothing but basically on the domestic animals, because of their rare, the what's it, they rare those animals, and there is where you get the produce from them also. So the artisans, taxes on the artisans and the other professions you see. And there is sales tax is given because when there is a sale done, more uh, it gives you a revenue here. So he provided a land to be 1/6, 1/8, or 1/4 of the crops here. Okay, so the duties on the traders, it should be very much fixed based upon their sales and the purchase. Okay. So the mechanics, artisans, and the shudras who lived by the manual labor. Manual means with the hand work. So they should work for the king in the whole of 1 month each. Okay, one day, one day in the 1 month. Each month, each month, one day they have to work for the king. Who? The Shudras, the artisans, and the mechanics here. So if any of the treasurer, he discover treasury or the treasure where it has been discovered. Okay, if somewhere someone finds a treasure or a small kind of gold dabba, okay, or kind of gold box or something that somewhere he finds in the excavations, where that treasure should be half given to the royal exchequer. Exchequer is the treasurer who holds the money or the finances, who checks about the treasury of the kingdom. Half of them should be given and the other half to be distributed among the brahmanas. Okay. So this is what Manusmriti or Manu is about, where in Manusmriti you see it practically talks about the every stages of life, political, economist, and the social, legal, everything you will see, and where Manu has seen how the Vedas are the sources of dharma or the law here, and where it has laid a strong stress on the way of life in according to what according with the philosophy and the spirit of the Vedas here. He also explained about the fourfold Varna system, the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and the Shudras, you see. And this is a hierarchy of the social caste and their relations, and how he did not try to view the political phenomena. Political phenomena is not a situation as a very distinct, very uh, distanceable entity where it is, but something that is discussed in the context of very wide social purposes and the objectives you see, which has been connected with the religion and also with the spiritual and the ethical. Ethical means something that is good based upon those ethical assumptions here. So where as a result of this, that is what the oppressed sections, okay, the oppressed sections in the present society you see, they make the followers of Manu as the irrational Puritans. Okay, so this is the class for today. Thank you.